Hi everybody. Sorry a little bit late. On today's Facebook Live, I want to talk a little bit about differentiating yourself or differentiating bipolar loved one from loved one. And there's a video on the site on Facebook where I do talk about Bipolar Bob and Bob, but I thought it would be good to go over this again on a live video. So Bipolar Bob, or your bipolar loved one, has a serious illness, and that illness makes them do silly things, stupid things. And because of that illness, and we got some people running, that's great. We're out again in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. But because of their illness, they do things that are just extraordinarily bad. And so Bipolar Bob, for example, would go buy a Hummer without asking his wife for permission. Well, actually, I did. Bipolar Bob did ask his wife at the time for permission to buy this big H2 Hummer vehicle. And Bipolar Bob really thought he needed it and had tons of good reasons. But Bipolar Bob's wife did not think there was a lot of good reasons to buy it. And she was right. She was ultimately right. But the problem is that Bipolar Bob saw himself being right. And you probably know this from your own experience with your loved one. Bipolar Bob went and bought the Hummer. I actually kept my other car, and I drove my other car to and from where I kept the Hummer hidden from my wife for a couple of months or more. Bipolar Bob does that, not Bob. Bob is not that kind of guy, but you know who got in trouble? Right, Bob got in trouble. Bob was in serious trouble. Not only was I in trouble with my wife, but I had a car payment, a lease payment that I barely could afford. I had like a $700 a month lease payment. I'm like, who does that? Well, Bipolar Bob does that. And the way to deal with it is to recognize and separate the person from the illness. It's the best way that I've seen people deal with it. And that is when your loved one is acting in a way that's very odd and very strange, I can guarantee you that it's because they're in a mood or an episode. And that mood or episode is causing them to do things that are literally crazy. I get it. And I can use that word freely. So the best thing I can recommend is that when you see your bipolar loved one and don't see your loved one anymore, that's a good sign that something about their treatment isn't working. Either they've stopped taking their medication, or they're on the wrong medication, or not enough of the right medication. You know what I mean? Either way, their medication regimen is not working for them. They may have stopped going to therapy, or maybe they weren't going to therapy. And I encourage everybody to go to therapy at least once a week for at least 1 hour a week. I sometimes do 2 or 3 hours in a week, but it's my way of managing my illness. And so your bipolar loved one is probably not doing their treatment as well as they could be, both their medication and their therapy. And so the encouragement I would give is for them to do that. Now, what if he or she's not in a bipolar episode right now? What if they're kind of in remission and behaving kind of normal? Well, this is a perfect time to bring this up, because you want to get some kind of an agreement with your loved one on what to do when you start seeing early warning signs of him or her starting to break down. And you can even identify what those warning signs are. Like with mania, people start talking very fast, and they'll talk over you. They will never ask you a question. And if you interrupt them, oh my gosh, World War V just occurred. People do not like, in that mood, that episode, they do not like to be told what to do. So if you have somebody who's really become very rapid speech, very fast, they can't even keep up with their own ideas because they're getting them by a dozen a minute, and they don't stay on track anywhere. They'll start here, then they'll go there, then they'll go over here, then they'll go over here, and they never come back to where they started. They never finish any one of those things. I think you know what I mean. You've probably seen this before. That's a great early warning sign for mania. Depression may be a great warning sign, is they just don't feel like doing the things they like doing. You know, like for me, I'm a golfer, but in my depressed mood, it could be at a beautiful sunny day like this. You can park me in front of a golf course, and I don't want to play. And it's because I've lost interest in the things that I found pleasurable before. That's a great warning sign of depression. In a course, I'm about to release the education course for bipolar solutions. And in that, I go through each of these symptoms so that you can recognize what they look like when your loved one starts to go into a break. But I'll announce that pretty soon of when that's going to be available. In the meantime, try to identify some of these early warning signs that you've seen in your loved one, and then talk it through with your loved one while they're in a remission state, not in a manic state. That would be a terrible time to bring this up, unfortunately. Talk to them about what you want to do to let them know, you're going to be their mirror. You're going to let them know when you start seeing these things. And that's going to be important so that something can be done. So the second part of that is not just recognizing, but then doing something about it, an action plan. And an action plan would probably be, in my mind and in my own experience, the first thing would be to go see my doctor. Something's not working medically, and it's most likely the medication. And if I haven't been seeing a therapist, my second form of action would be to go see my therapist. And you can plan this out when everybody's in a stable mood. You can write it down. You can even have a signed agreement. I would recommend that so that you can show your loved one when they go into an episode that they wrote this and they signed it. It's a very helpful tool to managing bipolar loved one versus loved one. I hope this helps a lot. I hope that you can see your loved one just be your loved one for an enormous amount of time. Bipolar disorder has no cure for it. So you really have to be prepared for a person to get into an episode. And the best thing you can do is look for things that detect an episode and take action, take immediate action. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video. Until then, take the very best care, and bye for now.